I encounter so many women in the wealth circle who haven't really dipped their toes into investing yet and are legitimately nervous to do it. It feels like you're losing control. You're giving this money to this thing and you don't really know what's going to happen.
I felt the same. I remember putting my first $250 into Betterment, also robo-advisor, and I was like, this is going to be gone in a week. I just know it. And I just had someone tell me, like, Allegra, you're crazy. Women aren't investing 50% of their salary. And I'm like, no. They are. I talk to them all the time.
Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Coin. I'm Allegra Moet-Brantley, your host, on a mission to lead 1 million women to 1 million in net worth. We do that through Factora Wealth Circles, and today I interviewed a woman who took her wealth circle a year and a half ago and has already increased her net worth by $50,000, doubled her salary, and got her investing rate up to 50%. That means she invests 50% of her salary income, which is amazing. And I can tell you right now, most Americans are doing less than 10%. So she's off to the races, and I can't wait for you to hear more.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you.
Where are you joining us from?
I am tuning in from Portland, Oregon, where I've been for a couple weeks now. But my real home is up in Washington State at the moment.
I love it. And how is it that you're so able to freely travel? Are you working? Are you breaking?
Yeah, I'm working. I have a full-time W-2 type job, but it's fully remote. I work at a company that has actually been mostly remote for decades now. So that's been a really fun shift for me. It's pretty new. I've only been there about a year. So I've been exploring a little bit the slightly nomadic thing, and I'm house sitting at the moment. So I'll be here in Portland for about 6 weeks.
She said that there's 4 dogs outside of her door right before we started this recording. So we'll see if we get any barks in the background. Yeah, so I'm really excited to dig into your story. I feel like it would be worth just kind of setting the stage, who you are, how you found Factora, when you took a wealth circle, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So I'm originally from the Boston area, and I went to school in New Hampshire, and then I lived in New Hampshire and Vermont for a bit, and then Western North Carolina for a while. And that whole time I was working in pretty small nonprofits, doing marketing and communications and some program stuff, making honestly like a very low nonprofit sort of entry level salary. I think I was making like $40,000 a year or something. It felt fine. Just like in the communities I was in, that was working. I felt like I was smart about budgeting, and I did a little bit of investing and all, but it was really when I moved to Washington State about 2 years ago for a job, I guess 3 years ago at this point, that my income bumped up a bit. And for the first time I was like, oh, I actually have a bit more money to play around with. I should make sure that I'm being smart about this. And that's when I heard about the Wealth Circle and decided to go for it. I saw it like on an Instagram story and was like, sign up. Like, I hope this is worth it. And it's been so great for me. But it was really, at that point that I decided to be a bit more intentional about what I was doing with my money. And I had no idea at the time that would then inspire me to be like, not just smarter with my money, but also to make thinking about money and investing and wealth building like more of an interest of mine. It really hadn't been an interest. It was just something I was sort of trying to do as a responsible adult.
Okay. So first of all, when did you take your wealth circle?
I did the wealth circle in the spring of 2022, so about a year and a half ago.
Okay, and so you said you moved and you got this new job and you went from making $40,000 to what?
To about $75,000, which honestly at the time, like, it sounds kind of silly, but like it had never occurred to me in my life that I would make that much money. And not because I didn't think I could, but I just sort of had like chosen this career path that wasn't particularly lucrative. And I'd been really focused up to that point on sort of like the feeling of my life and making sure that I had a job that interested me and lots of time and space to do other creative hobbies. And it just never occurred to me that my job would contribute like financially in my life in that way. And so $75,000 was like oh my God, help. Like, and since then I've actually left that job. I've got a new job, which is the remote role. In some ways that job was pretty cool, but in other ways it was not a good fit. So I was only there a little over a year. And the current job I'm at, I got a bit of a salary boost when I made that switch. So my current salary is about 85,000. Um,
Okay, I love this. First of all, listeners, just look at how comfortable she is sharing her salary. I didn't even prompt that final salary reveal, and you did it on your own. I think what I picked out from your story was two things right off the bat. One, the idea of almost doubling your salary in a job change and wanting to make sure you're being quite responsible with your newfound money. That is one of the biggest reasons we see women join the Well Circle. It's like, oh man, I've got this money coming in, whether it's just making more or maybe they've got some sort of windfall, maybe a company sale or an inheritance or just like, they're buying a house or they're selling a house and like there's just big money moving around and they want to be really good financial stewards. And I'm just pointing that out because I love that impetus to like, hey, there's money around, let's be smart with it. I think that's a great reason to get more financial education and investment acumen.
yeah.
And then, oh gosh, what was the other thing that jumped out at me? Oh, just you saying, that you didn't think you would be making this amount of money at some point because it wasn't a focus, and you're almost like, how could it not have been now that you're in this new realm of money being such a high interest? Because another thing that's worth listeners knowing is that you're actually a Factora Wealth Circle facilitator right now. And for people who don't know what that is, after you've taken a Wealth Circle, because this is a very cohort community centric experience, my belief is that it's one thing to go read about money on Investopedia at night, and it's a whole nother thing to really like learn and take action. And I think that requires conversations and hearing what other people are doing and kind of volleying ideas around. And so that's why we do it together in groups of women. So it feels like a safe, vulnerable space to talk about what you are and aren't doing. But yeah, so Sarah's currently a facilitator in the fall 2023 Wealth Circle cohort, which just means that these facilitators who've taken the Wealth Circle and gotten really interested in prioritizing wealth building and all that means to them. Because I know for you, and we'll get into this later in the episode, a lot of that is just being able to share your knowledge with people around you in your life. And so you get to do that on a pretty great level when you facilitate another cohort going through this experience. Because it's nice to remember how you were when you were starting. I know some people are coming in and they're like, I know a lot of this, but that's a golden nugget. And other people are like, this is a fire hose of information. I did not get all that the first time around. I'm going to need to rewatch this, have another conversation about it, etc. So, yeah, that jumped out at me too. Just that you almost can't believe looking back that wealth wasn't a natural interest, because it sounds like it. If I'm hearing you right, now it's an interest of yours.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm a person who's never been short on interests. I'm really good at entertaining myself and figuring out like what are the different pieces that I want to have in my life to feel fulfilled. And I think we have a culture, not always, but we certainly can tend towards feeling like a career needs to be this all-consuming thing. And I think I identified pretty early on that I wasn't like a career person, and that giving my all to a job at the expense of other interests around me wasn't really going to work. But it didn't entirely click in my mind that I could have a really fulfilling, well-paid job that also allowed a really rich and vibrant sort of external non-job life. And I'm sort of in phase 2 of realizing like I've got all those interests, but I can also now focus on a bit more of a career to honestly to accelerate the interests, if nothing else.
Yeah, Totally. Well, first of all, I think what you said just about career not being like the main interest or the central piece of your life as an American is very refreshing. I feel the same way. I'm like, no, 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 no. How did we all get convinced that we're just supposed to go to college and find a job and it needs to be our dream job and it needs to be the best and we need to live, breathe, eat, sleep, and talk about it all the time? Like, that's so boring. And this is coming from someone who lived in New York. I mean, all you do is go to networking events and talk about what you do. Like, how boring, why can't we talk about who we are and what we are about instead of just the job we do? So I hope that there's a bigger shift coming just in American society in general, because I don't think that that's a life well lived if it's all about working. But I agree with you that wealth building is so exciting to me because it allows me to have more interests outside of work and to do and share resources in a way I couldn't do if I was just focusing on a salary and like whatever that job was about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's been one of the things that's really been inspiring about the Wealth Circle, and particularly having the Slack community, is just getting so much exposure to little snippets of other people's lives and seeing that it's not like you can have interests or you can have a career. There's so many women on there who are doing really interesting, inspiring things that are lighting them up, and it doesn't have to be all about one or the other.
Totally. Well, people are dynamic, like we gotta share all the things. It can't just be so siloed. All right, let's get into the numbers. So talk to me more about what your financial profile looks like outside of salary before you joined the Wealth Circle, and how or what things you've changed since taking the Wealth Circle.
As I mentioned, I was working in nonprofits. I had a pretty low salary. I was lucky that my mom fairly early on had told me about a Roth IRA. I don't know if I even would have known about investing or that, but since maybe 2013, I've been maxing out a Roth IRA every year and feeling really good about that. Took me a couple of years to realize I had to invest it, but we're there now.
Okay.
So when I joined the Wealth Circle, that was the only investing I had done. And I think that account was at about 100,000 and my total net worth was 140,000, which honestly I felt and still feel pretty good about, considering that I'd made a really low salary for the first decade or so of my career.
Heck yeah. Wait, can I just, because I love all the numbers, how old were you when you took your Wealth Circle and realized you had this $140,000 net worth? And did you know your net worth prior, or was this one of the first times you were kind of constructing it?
Those are all really good questions. I was, almost 37 now. So I must have been 35 when I took my Wealth Circle. So definitely on a slow burn sort of wealth building track. I knew what was in my bank account and I knew what was in my IRA investment account, but I certainly had never done honestly, not even hard math of what is my net worth? That was not a concept that I'd ever had any reason to think about before. And I didn't, and I still don't own property. I technically have a car, but it's nothing fancy. So my net worth is really easy to calculate. It's just what are the accounts, what's in them, simple addition. But things like investing rate, that is a thing that I'm tracking monthly. And before Factora, I had no idea what my investing rate was. And if I look back, it wasn't even that bad. It was probably about 15%. But the concept of focusing on that and working to increase it was just not at all on my radar.
Well, and it's not on a lot of radar, so definitely don't feel bad there. Investing rate, just for listeners who might be tuning in for the first time, investing rate is simply how much money you put towards investments divided into income. You can do that on a monthly basis or an annual basis, but for instance, if you're making 100,000 and you're putting 15,000 towards investments, that would be that 15%. A lot of people don't track that, but the average American is doing less than 10%. We got a lot of people just not even actively contributing to investing. And the reason we want to invest is because when you invest, you're buying assets with the hopes that that asset will grow in value and maybe throw off some sort of additional income, like in the stock market, it might be dividends. And then you can reinvest those. And so then you can have compound returns. And I think it's so interesting that you had been so dedicated to an IRA since 2013. Go mom for teaching you that. And I wonder if you probably felt so good when you looked at that account, because I would definitely feel so good if I was like, oh my God, I built this up. We'll talk about some of more transitions to where you are now, but did it ever occur to you to do more investing outside of the IRA, or did you look into that?
I don't know that investing was ever like super scary to me or that I felt like I wanted to invest more. The
The
money
extra,
really
yeah.
work.
And honestly, that makes sense because like about 5 to 6,000 into 40,000 is a lot, is a considerable amount. Okay, so talk to me about what else. What other changes have you made from being Mrs. Max out your IRA consistently, which is still so freaking impressive?
Yeah. Well, Factora really opened up my eyes to other accounts and more than that to the reason why you would have other accounts. So I think like I knew about 401ks my previous job. So the one I was in when I was taking the Wealth Circle, that was the first time I had a 401k with a match. And so it made total sense to me to like contribute and get that match. But I guess I had until that point I didn't really know the sort of underlying investment strategy. Like if you don't have all of the index funds at Vanguard available to you, if you only have like 20 or so in this 401k offering through work, like what should I go for at that point? And I think I'd been scared that like I'd heard from friends and my former partner, like 401ks maybe don't always have the most advantageous investing options. And so I think previously I might have shied away from like, I don't know if this is right for me, but really understanding it wasn't until Factora that I understood like the tax benefits and what that actually meant for me and for wealth building. So the first change I made was to start contributing to my 401k above that match. When I switched to my new role about a year ago, I opened that up as soon as I could and I set the pre like it doesn't even come into my bank account. There's 25% of every paycheck that just goes over into my 401k. And so like I don't think about it, I don't see it, I don't really miss it, and that's been awesome. And then I set up a brokerage account and actually recently I set up a second one as sort of a test to see one is with Vanguard and one is through M1, which is more of like a robo advisor kind of thing, which I'd never dabbled in before, but there's about $10,000 in each and I'm just going to like see over the next year, 2, 5, who knows, like if I'm noticing big differences in the returns on those. And I don't know, that's like, I guess a very low effort, nerdy little experiment. The big changes for me since Factora have been really doubling down on investing as much as I can. And in a lot of ways, I think, I've been able to average my savings and investing rate this year just over 50%, which is super high. And I think is not going to be sustainable for me. Like I'm in a lot of ways taking advantage of being a bit nomadic and having this. I've had really low rent for this year, and that's not something that I foresee going on into the future. I would like to settle down into a place a little bit more, but I've really tried that the money I'm investing this year, like the earlier the better. It's only going to do good things long term.
I'm going to recap it because it's all so good. Okay, so what I heard went from about 15% investing rate to 50, and I just had someone tell me like, Allegra, you're crazy. Women aren't investing 50% of their salary. And I'm like, no. They are. I talk to them all the time. So I'm glad we're recording this episode right after someone told me that that's just not happening. I'm like, no, it is.
And to be clear, that's a combined savings and investing rate. So I am working a bit on putting some money aside in a high yield savings account for a down payment, which I guess is
it's still going to go to an investment, right? Like that's going to be an asset. So I would still, I mean, to not spend 50% of your salary on things that don't give you a potential ROI, I find to be so incredible. And what you said, which was like, probably not going to be able to do it forever, might not even be able to do it as much next year. I think short-term pain for long-term gain is really how investing works. Like the more you can get in now and let it have time to compound, the better. I think unfortunately, I didn't even get that message until I was 30. I wish that I had just been putting a little bit away back in my 20s and not really noticing. But, we learn these things at different times. We have different priorities. But what's so great about your situation, and I've seen this a lot through my work with the different women's financial profiles that come into Factora, a lot of people will say to me, oh, I probably shouldn't take the Wealth Circle unless I'm making the big bucks, right? Because I need money to invest. And I'm like, well, interestingly, pretty much everything we teach, I feel, almost has this counterintuitive edge. And one would be, so someone like you who's making a $40,000 salary, but was still living below your means, is in a much better position to ramp up your investing rate as you start to earn more than someone who comes into the Wealth Circle making a $150,000 salary and already a useful resource in your life. We don't want it to feel constricting and bad, etc. But I want to point that out because I do find that the women who come in who are making less actually have room to grow their wealth faster because they don't have to undo anything. They just have to get things started and keep them going. But the other thing I want to recap from your changes to make sure I've got them right. Investing rate went from 15% to 50, which is freaking amazing. You also went from just taking a match with your 401k to actually maxing it out. So are you maxing it out this year?
Yeah, it'll be my first year. I'm excited about it.
Okay, congratulations. So that's $22,500 going into investments just into that particular account. And that you actually opened up 2 taxable brokerage accounts to test out, one just with a discount brokerage and one with a robo, and you have 10K in each?
Yeah, roughly.
Okay.
A little more in one. Well, they're fluctuating so much.
Well, exactly. And they're going to have different, depending on what she invests in, they're going to have different expense ratios for those funds, the actual underlying investments. And I believe M1 is a 1% management fee. Is that right?
I don't think so, but I need to check that. I've
Okay.
got some homework now.
I thought it's like Titan. I thought it had a M1 fee. We're doing this on the fly, people. Can't find the answer fast enough. This is reminiscent of when women come into the Wealth Circle and fill out their net worth spreadsheet. One of the hardest things to do is go find fees. They're not trying to make those that easy to find.
Let's see. I'm seeing account management fees 0%, investment fund fees 0.06 to 0.2, spend account 0.
Well, that's freaking great.
I don't know. We'll confirm later, but
okay. So basically, she's doing a comparison of testing 2 different financial institutions and what those investments are going to return her. Then I'm assuming you would just spend more, prioritize one more than the other.
Yeah, or possibly consolidate all of it into one or the other. And in some ways, it's a goofy experiment because, if I don't run it for at least 5 years, what does it even mean? But we'll see.
I love it, though. But really, that's just such a good example of women coming into the Wealth Circle and saying, I'm just going to try. I'm going to try it. I just think that there is, literally no alternative to experience.
Mm-hmm.
We'd like to read about it in a blog post and just assume that's how it's going to be for us. But personal experience with investing, there's no other way to do it. You have to try. You have to get comfortable with these different financial vehicles. And the more experience you get, hopefully, the more comfortable you get doing it so that you can do more of it. But okay, back to the numbers. What else do you have on the horizon? And what about your net worth? What's that at?
Yeah, my net worth is it's been hovering right around 190,000. I think, you know, 5/6 or so of my total net worth is invested, so that number fluctuates a fair amount. I'm really hoping it'll cross 200,000 by the end of the year, just like because that seems fun, but that would take the market going up a bit, and
Yes.
we'll see. I
Well, the good news is you've got a lot of that money invested in retirement accounts, so they're going to be there for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, you know, that I encounter so many women in the wealth circle who haven't really dipped their toes into investing yet and are legitimately nervous to do it. It feels like you're losing control. You're giving this money to this thing and you don't really know what's going to happen. But at this point, I've had money invested for long enough, and we're not talking huge sums, but my IRA at this point has just the investment returns are about $40,000, which is like a full year of me working at that nonprofit salary I was making for everything. Start with like a S&P 500 fund or a target date retirement fund. Maybe it's not the perfect solution, but it's like 80 or 90% of the way there, and then just like let it sit there and see for yourself over time. And then as you get more comfortable, just ramp that up. That's been so huge for me.
Well, and I'd argue there is no perfect solution. Like, we're never going to get to the end of our investing career and be like, oh, I made the most money I could have, because you would have to do a billion Monte Carlo situations to even look back and see if you had the best funds, you could have done better somewhere else. So that's impossible. We're not all going to do that. What is possible is, to your point, just trying, right? Doing the little, I love the nerdy projects. Like, why not compare two different financial institutions and what they can do for you? And I also find it interesting that that reminder and that feeling of women feeling like when they're going to invest, they're going to on in a week. I just know it. Like, I just know that I'm not doing it right and it's going to go. And it's that fear of not getting it perfect that I think keeps us from getting it done. And that is where I think the Well Circle really steps in. Again, with the community factor. And it's like, she's doing it. Like, you got to show up to the Well Circle and tell people in your Well Circle that you've been investing in an IRA since 2013 and made 40 grand from just compound returns, which is hugely motivating. And when we hear and see other women doing it directly and having good results, it feels more comfortable and approachable, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so you shared all your numbers, and I feel like the last thing we should talk about is just how is this affected, if it has, but this is a leading question, people in your life, because I know you're interested in this now, and you talked a little bit in your story that you shared just about being able to, talk through these things with other people. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think mostly for better, maybe a little bit for worse. I'm certainly the person in my family and sort of immediate friend group. I'm a planner. I want to write things down. If I learn a thing, I want to like research it and share it. So it's been really hard for me to like learn more about money and wealth building and feel like I've now got these tools that feel almost like a little bit of a hack, and then not also want to be like, hey, my sister, my best friend, my partner, like there's this thing, you should be doing it. So at the beginning of this year, I roped my sister, who I'm really close with, and we have a small business together, and I roped her into like a little bit of a money book club. So we went through Ramit's I Will Teach You to Be Rich. We read it like a chapter every 2 weeks, like really casual. We would like read the book or read the chapter one week, talk about it, do our homework, like talk about it the next week. Um, and that was really fun. And I feel like the more I have sort of conversations and interactions with people who are close to me on topics like that, the easier it is then for them to come to me if they've got questions or like, I heard this thing, what's your take on it? Like it just opens up pathways to conversations that are really beneficial for both of us that weren't really on the table before, not because they were expressly not allowed, but that wasn't part of our vocabulary. So same thing with my partner. And I try to be like, I don't want to be the money bully, but just sharing what I'm learning and making sure that like the people I love also know about the things that are exciting me and the opportunities that feel like they're available. And that's been fun for me too as a facilitator at Factora, just having a place to come and share and to know that that knowledge and that interaction is wanted and that everyone there is eager to have those same conversations with me.
I love it. I also kind of love the term money bully. I'm definitely that in my friend group. I mean, for better or for worse. But it's I think because of that spillover effect you talk about, when I started my financial revolution, as I like to refer to it, I could not help myself but talk about it with other people because I hadn't had conversations about these topics. I mean, I shared my salary, but definitely hadn't talked about what was in my investment fund and like what a money market was versus an index fund. I was just like, and so now people do come to me for that. And obviously, I have 4 friends actually in this wealth circle, which I think is really impressive because I've been doing this for a while, and friends just kind of watch and they're like, I talk to you enough, right? There's probably nothing more to it. And I'm like, no, there's so much more to it, and it's the community. And I am just one. I can't be 200 other women. You have to experience that directly. But Sarah, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your money story and just for being a facilitator and such a valued member of the Wealth Circle community. I appreciate you.